Hey guys, welcome or welcome back. Tisha here, back for another movie time. Today we're going to be talking about the movie. That was my drum roll. We're going to be talking about She Devil. This was my movie years ago. It came out in 1989, and what I loved about it was everybody on the movie, in my opinion, was a hot mess. From the adults to the children, even down to the animals. But I enjoyed it. It was on Tubi the other day, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a review on this. The movie begins with Ruth, who is played by Roseanne, telling us that there are some women who are naturally beautiful in the world, and then there are women like her who need all the help that they can get in order to be seen as beautiful. So we see her shopping, getting her makeup and getting her nails and getting her feet done because this is what she has to do in order to feel beautiful. The storytellers would like for us to see Ruth as this frumpy, overweight wife and mother who's underappreciated, who just values her family, and who is trying everything that she can in order to make her accountant husband happy. Later on, though, Ruth becomes someone else, but we'll get to it. So her husband's name is Bob, and we see her desperately trying to please him. Meanwhile, he doesn't even seem to be attracted to her. More so, he's bothered and embarrassed by her. So we see her call him, and they talk about this work event that they're supposed to be attending, and she's ready to go and she's excited about it. She's like, we haven't been out in a while. I'm so excited to go. And he's like, it's going to be a boring, networking event. You don't have to come. Trying to talk her out of it. I don't think he really wanted her to go in the first place, but she's going to come, and he's like, okay, you can come. So while there, Ruth accidentally bumps into a woman by the name of Mary Fisher. Ruth's feet are hurting so badly from the high heels that she has on that she's taking them off to get that moment of relief, and she leans back, bumps into her, spills her wine on her dress, okay? We find out that Mary Fisher is this 30-year-old, well-established romance novelist that Ruth is extremely familiar with. We even see it in the beginning of the movie. She's in the beauty salon watching her talk about her latest book. So she spills the wine. Bob is like, excuse my wife. She has to hurry up and go and get something. Go get something, Ruth. Go get something, Ruth. Now, I don't understand why he couldn't have been the gentleman and get something, but instead he utilized this opportunity to get to know her so that he can get a new client. After all, this is a networking event. And it's obvious as soon as they're one-on-one that they are instantly attracted to one another when they lock eyes. Bob says, you gotta excuse my wife. She's always spilling things. Mary says, your wife? Too bad. When Mary said that, I said, all right. At this point, anything that happens to Mary is fair game, because Mary was well aware that this man was married. He might have not been happily married, but he was married. They begin to talk about Bob being an accountant, and Mary's just eager to learn more. You see them arm in arm. You see him put his jacket over her. They're having a whole moment like his wife isn't there getting this club soda, excited at the bar, telling everybody, I just spilled my wine on Mary Fisher. Like, she's so excited. Meanwhile, Mary and Bob are getting real close. So she finds the club soda stuff to get the wine out. She's standing there, and they're off doing whatever they're doing, okay? Which at this point is just, getting to know one another. So Bob offers to take Mary home, even though Mary's home is way out of the way. And when I say way out of the way, I'm talking 75 miles out of the way. They're driving home. He has Ruth in the back and Mary Fisher, his potential client, in the front seat. They drop off Ruth. He doesn't even have the common decency to drop his wives, whose feet were hurting at their door. Instead, he drops her off at the neighborhood because he's eager. He's eager to go take this client home, okay? This future client home. They arrive at Mary's pink home that is by the beach. It overlooks the beach water. Like, it's really nice. Well, it's really big. I don't like the color. Pink isn't my color, but to each his own. So Garcia is there to open the door. Now, Garcia is supposed to be Mary's butler, but we find out that he was more like Mary's plaything. So she utilized Garcia for things other than being a butler. Garcia, in my opinion, is also a perv because there are points in the movie where I do not like how he is interacting with Bob's daughter. Back then, I thought it was funny seeing this little girl dancing with a man with her legs wrapped around him. But as an adult, I think he's a perv. And I feel like if that little girl stayed in that house, that Garcia is the type of guy that would probably have groomed her. I'm just calling it like I see it. It's Mary and Bob's first night. This is the first time they've ever met. This is the first time that she's inviting him to her home. They're sitting there, they're drinking, and Mary wastes no time to make a move by putting her hand in his groin area. Once again, knowing that he is a married man. They end up sleeping with each other. It's the next day. At Ruth and Bob's house, we meet Andrew and Nicolette, which are Ruth and Bob's children. Andrew was eating breakfast while playing with his rat, and Nicolette is wondering where her dad is. He comes home the next day while they're eating breakfast. He says he's sorry. He was late. He had a flat on the road. He decided, that he would just get a hotel. He didn't even call his wife to let her know he was okay. Instead, he pops up like nothing happened. And we see the night before that she was sitting there and she looks at the clock and it's like 4 something in the morning. So she was waiting up for him. He says, despite all of that happening, I got good news though. I just landed the Mary Fisher account. He's really excited. Ruth isn't though, because her intuition is telling her right away that something isn't right. She says in her mind, my husband is having an affair, and you hear her narrate it. He tells her that it's not that. She then says it to him. She's like, it's not that. While we see Ruth surrounded by all the things that are going wrong in her home, okay? She's fixing the sink. She's doing the yard work. She's taking care of the kids, all with hopes that her husband, who while they're giving this narration and we're seeing her do these things, is out gallivanting with Mary Fisher. She hopes that he'll come back home soon. She says that I will be here and I will make sure that this rights and I will fight. Like she's determined to make sure her marriage works. Bob is with Mary, running on the beach, hanging out in her pink palace by the sea, okay? So we see Bob and Mary laying in bed, undressed, finishing up one of their love-making sessions, and he tells her that it's time for him to go home. She says, your home is here with me. She wants him to be there. This man has 2 kids. This isn't a novel. But Mary is selfish and she doesn't care about all of that. She said they have their mother, meaning like, you don't have to go home, be with me. She tells him, I'm tired of sharing you with her, and proceeds to perform another sexual act. We then see him heading home because we find out that his parents have been invited over for dinner. We see him arrive and he jumps in the shower. Ruth comes in there too, but she's coming in there to check her weight. He looks out, gets out the shower, sees her about to get on the scale and says, no wonder you're so upset. He's the worst. So he knows that he's been cheating on her and he knows that he doesn't treat her right. But she's expected to not only act like everything's okay, not only prepare a meal for her kids, not only take care of the home, not only do the household chores, but also basically act like everything's okay while you criticize her about her weight. We see his parents arrive, and Bob is upset because nothing is ready. And he's yelling at her like, please don't embarrass me in front of my folks, please. Guess it was too much for him to maybe help her prepare the food, because you're complaining and saying nothing is ready, but I don't see him sitting there to grab anything and help her. So he's sitting there at the table, lying to his parents, telling them how they have this perfect relationship we always have, and we always will. It's a mess. I mean, a mess. Food is burning. She's coming out with crackers and meat, cheese and crackers on a tray. She trips and falls, but he's just upset that she fell because he caught the tray. Rodents are being cooked in the mushroom soup. It's just a whole catastrophe. Aware of the affair and her frustrations with how he's acting towards her, she mentions it in front of his parents while they're visiting. Bob gets so upset that he fusses at his parents, saying that you all made me marry her because she was pregnant. When he said that, I said he deserves whatever is coming his way too. So Bob leaves her, but before he does, he lets her know his life is made up of liabilities and assets. And he tells her that there are certain things that matter to him, like his home, his family, his career, and his freedom. Those are his assets. But Ruth is a liability. He says, I don't even think you're a woman. You're a she-devil, hence the title. Ruth does what some people may do in that situation, Nah, Ruth does what a lot of people wouldn't do in that situation. And Ruth basically vows revenge on him and the pretty, rich, thin Mary Fisher. Now, I've been cheated on before, but I've never had the type of Ruth level of get back. No. See, I'm the type of person who I'm going to fold your clothes, pack them up real nicely, have them waiting outside the door for you, tell you I appreciate it, and change the locks. Or I'm the person who, will be calm while I'm screaming on the inside because I'm not going to let you see me like that. But Ruth wasn't waiting around for karma. Ruth said, I'm going to create my own. Ruth lists Bob's assets, his assets, the ones that he said, his home, his family, his career, and his freedom. It's her to-do list. As she accomplishes one goal, her plan is to move on to the next. With Bob away at Mary's and the kids at school, we see her overload the electric circuit of the house, destroying it in a massive explosion. I'm talking about tossing electronics into the washing machine and turning it on, lighting cigarettes and tossing them in the trash can, putting explosives in the microwave and turning that on, turning the pilot light on the stove on with it being lit so that the gas is filling up in the air. And before the explosion, she grabs the dog and she goes into Bob's at-home office and grabs Mary Fisher's file. The house explodes. The children arrive home from school and they see that everything is gone. And she hops in a taxi and takes them to their father because, of course, with the house being gone, she has nowhere to stay. Neither do the kids. So she goes to Mary Fisher's house, is let in by the butler that Mary used to sleep with because he's been replaced with Bob. The kids walk into the pool area at the home where they see Bob and Mary kissing. She tells Andy and Nicolette, this is your new home, and I hope you'll be happy here. Bob is upset. He's like, what are you doing? She leaves the kids with them and tells them that she will not be returning, that the house is gone. He doesn't believe her. She's like, call the insurance people. So she has now officially crossed the home off her to-do list. Ruth then takes a job at a nursing home. She takes this job specifically for Mary Fisher's because Mary Fisher's mom resides at this nursing home. She changes her name to Rose, gets a tour of the facility where she notices immediately that a lot of the people are sedated. So the director, rather than making this nursing home a beautiful experience for these people, sedates them so she doesn't have to deal with them. The director makes it known that bedwetters have no place at the Golden Twilight, which is the name of the nursing home. And Ruth meets, I think her name was Hooper, that has worked there for over 20 years. They become friends eventually, but I'll get into that. Ruth is not there a long time before she makes a notable change. She flushes the sedation medication down the sink, switches it out with vitamins and caffeine pills to make sure that the people are not just being sedated, but that they're being alert and they're being awake. So the residents go from just sitting around to now doing workouts and playing games and running all over the place. While that's going on, we see Bob's second asset, his family, slowly deteriorating. Mary is not a mom, nor does she have a desire to be one. The lady doesn't even know how to wash clothes. Her not doing the motherly and homely things that Ruth used to do causes issues with Bob, but it also causes issues for Mary because that's not what Mary signed up for. Bob is not a hands-on father, so he has no desire to be involved with that. The intention in their relationship rises. The kids being at the house begins to interfere with her ability to write her newest romance novel and her creativity. You then see Nicolette morphing into a little diva, dressing like she's older, wearing makeup, talking on a party line. Stark difference in how she was with her mother. Mary's new novel is late, and when she finally does present it, it's a mess. Ruth befriends Mary's foul-mouthed, estranged mother. I mean, moments into hearing her talk, she's calling her daughter a slut and an itch, put a B in front of it. It's funny, but it's not funny, because it shows you the type of life Mary grew up with if her mother speaks so ill of her. The kids are tearing up Mary's house, and the maid is over it because she was not hired to take care of all these extra people. While all of this is going on, Mary's mother arrives. Ruth collects a bunch of urinals and pours them in Miss Fisher's bed because, as I said, the place where she's at does not like incontinence. She does this because she knows it's going to be an issue. Ruth eventually gets fired from the home because the director discovers it, and she says, "I'm sorry, I didn't want to report her." And Miss Fletcher is kicked out of the facility. Hooper, who has been over there for over 22 years, has a savings worth of $55,000. Doesn't sound like a lot, but I looked it up because remember, this was created in 1989. 55,000 was a big deal back then because currently, in comparison, that would be like $140,000. So the partnership with them begins. They start an employment agency for downtrodden women who have been rejected by society and need a second chance. I think it was called Vesta Rose. The agency is successful, and the women Ruth has helped assist her in getting revenge on Bob, though they don't know that's what they're doing. This puts her on the next stage of her to-do list, which is Bob's career. So Ruth plants this information to the employment agency where she brings her advertisement to where he is so that he can see it. Bob, not knowing the agency is connected to Ruth, calls looking for an attractive assistant. He wants eye candy because Mary Fisher is no longer that 34-year-old eye candy, but he found out from the mom that she's a 42-year-old, at this point, stressed out lady. Olivia, an attractive but ditzy young blonde, applies for the agency. She's hired immediately as he sees her. I mean, the girl is qualified, but he's hiring her without looking at any of her qualification, any single portion of her resume, because he was on the floor looking at her legs. He ends up starting to sleep with her at the office, which means Bob is now working late and he's not coming home to Mary, which caused Mary to be lonely and desperate. Bob comes home with lipstick and kisses on his neck, and he's talking to Mary the way that he used to talk to Ruth, but he doesn't want her anymore. Sound familiar? You have Ruth narrating her husband doesn't want her anymore. Husbands don't like when their mistresses start acting like a wife. Olivia ends up proclaiming her love for Bob with the encouragement of Ruth. Ruth knew that this would turn Bob off. After Olivia tells him that she loves him, he immediately dumps her and fires her. Olivia reveals to Ruth that Bob is a fraud who cons money out of his clients by skimming the interest off of their accounts and then transfers it to an offshore account in Switzerland, which gets Ruth's mind going. Olivia and Ruth hack Bob's computer and transfer $200,000 into this account, and then Ruth reports it to the IRS. Ruth simultaneously, while doing that, mails pictures of Bob cheating with Olivia because his dumb tail made copies on the copy machine where the ring that he was given by Mary Fisher is seen on it. So she sees him cheating, arrives at her house. Her maid is quitting. She walks in to see Garcia dancing with Nicolette with her legs wrapped around him, which is extremely inappropriate. She fires him, slaps Nicolette, and tells them that she's taken back control of her life. Mary throws an elegant party with her friends where they're all acting the way they're supposed to act. Bob gets arrested. We then see later that Bob's lawyer bribes a corrupt male judge to ensure a favorable verdict. He says that he will say it's a computer glitch and you'll be off the hook, and tells him this will work because the largest amount of money was skimmed off of Mary's account, which means Bob has been stealing from her too. So she tells him computers don't transfer money to offshore accounts, Bob, and leaves him and ends up selling her mansion. A woman who gained employment from Ruth's agency, I'm telling you, Ruth did a whole bunch of stuff, is now a clerk at the court. So she calls her and asks for a favor, and she switches her from the judge that got bribed to an unbiased female job. Unbiased female judge. This is Bob's worst nightmare. Bob is convicted of embezzlement and sentenced to 18 months in prison, thus destroying his fourth and final asset, his freedom. As Bob is taken away, he realizes that his greed, selfishness, and infidelity towards Ruth have left him with nothing. 16 months later, Ruth and her children and reformed Bob are meeting up. Ruth is looking forward to what's next, whereas Bob is looking forward to catching up with his children and his upcoming release. Ruth has divorced him. She's looking better. She's feeling better. Ruth concludes that although people can change, as Bob has, not everyone has. Mary has revived her career, and at a book signing, we see a new tell-all book. She signs a book for Ruth, but does not recognize her. Next in line is a man. Mary is clearly smitten with him. She flirts with him, indicating that she has not completely changed her ways. I don't really see anything wrong with it. If he's not married, then go ahead on, Mary. The film ends with Ruth smiling as she walks down a busy street in Manhattan, accompanied by women from her firm. So in the end, she was the one who ended up in the best position. Y'all tell me what you think. Do you think that Ruth's karma was appropriate? Because looking back at her, Ruth was vicious. She was on that man at every turn. Y'all let me know what you think down below. Until next time.